On today's video, we head deep into the heart of the Columbia icefields in the search for some striking winter images. Join us as we explore this hidden wonderland tucked away out of sight and reach of most people, resulting in what I would say are some of the best, most epic, and probably the most dangerous photos I've created this year. Like all the best winter days, this one started with a drive down the Icefields Parkway. So we're heading out onto a glacier on the Columbia Icefields. You might be able to see just over there in the distance. We've got approximately a kind of 2 or 3 kilometre walk from the road out to this glacier across kind of snowy and rocky terrain. The snow's not too deep at the moment, but I feel like with these glaciers, they've become a little bit of a contentious issue maybe, especially in regards to like photographers or people are posting about them on Instagram, because glaciers inherently are not a safe place to visit. They're not a safe place to go to. So as a bit of a prerequisite to this video, I feel like it's probably worth mentioning that we are somewhat prepared as we can be. And personally, like, we've all spent quite a lot of time out in the mountains. We are experienced being in the mountains in the snow in the backcountry. And also as well, you might notice that on the back of my bag here, we have ropes and we have enough stuff to do crevasse rescues. And me personally, I've actually done crevasse rescue and glacial travel courses. And outside of being a photographer, my actual job is a rope access technician. Unfortunately, photography is not a full-time gig for me by any means. I don't even make enough to make it a part-time gig, to be honest with you. But like I said, I'm a rope access technician. And part of my job is I work up in northern BC, up in the mountains, on cliffs and in the snow during winter. And because of that, we practice a lot of rope rescue techniques and a lot of avalanche rescue techniques. So I feel like I do have a little bit of knowledge when it comes to this kind of stuff. And today the plan is really just to go to the toe of the glacier. We probably won't be doing any glacial travel, in all honesty, but it's good to be prepared. So we do have everything that we might need to go onto the glacier or rescue from crevasses on us. So just a word of warning, don't think visiting glaciers is like any old hike. You know, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of experience is probably worthwhile, and just know what you're getting yourself into. But that's the disclaimer out of the way. A little bit of a hike ahead of us, hopefully less than an hour, and then on to explore this glacier in the hope of some cool shots. Let's see what we can get. Heading further into the valley gave us closer and closer views of the distant glaciers. And it wasn't long until we were face to face with vibrant blue ice walls. And it's pretty humbling to think a lot of this ice is easily thousands of years old. So as you can see, we've made it to the toe of the glacier, and just behind me here we've got a little bit of an ice wall, kind of like maybe an overhanging potential ice cave. And over there we did have some really cool ice formations as well. Definitely going to go and explore that little area as well, but first we're going to don the helmet just in case there is any icefall whilst we're over there. I think the key thing for today is actually to give the illusion that we're in quite large ice caves, and realistically we're probably not going to be. We're going to be just inside some overhanging ice, but hopefully using some clever angles and some wide angle lenses, we can give the impression that we're in a much bigger ice cave than we actually are. So that's one thing to take note of as well. When you see images of places like this, they might not be kind of as cool and incredible to look at in person, but they still work well for some pictures. So we're going as safely as we can and going as deep as we need to, and for as little time as possible as well. I'll probably even drop the camera off on a self timer and then come back out of the cave to get some shots. But yeah, we'll head on down and check this out. So just before I show you the final results of that image, I'll kind of talk you through what we did there. You can kind of see here, this is a little bit of an overhang, so it's not really a cave. Just kind of popped in there quickly and took a bunch of shots handheld. Didn't want to set up a tripod and all that, didn't want to film down there because I didn't want to spend too much time under all that ice. And then Will on the outside here just kind of walked back and forth, and I fired a bunch off. So just trying to minimize the amount of time spent under the ice like that as well. And I think that shot turned out pretty cool. I think there might be a couple actually. So yeah, let me know what you think of those.
Further around the front of the glacier, we found a larger cave, cautiously entering. And it looked like the backside of the cave was pretty stable and could offer some interesting possibilities. But as with any ice cave, it's safer not to hang around too long, so we made a hasty exit.
So we just had a little bit of a scope around in this little cave behind me here, but to be honest, didn't like the look of it, didn't love it. The front end of it's looking a little bit unstable, a little bit fractured. The back side of it looks pretty good actually, which is kind of where we were. We hung out there for maybe a minute, took a couple pictures on the way out and then got out of there as quickly as possible. Probably wouldn't recommend going into a cave like that in all honesty. Took a bit of a risk there, but we've come up with a bit of a plan, and I think what we're going to try and do is maybe go around the back here and see what the ice is like at the top and how the entry is to this point. And we might better rig up some anchors at the top of this ice wall and even kind of wrap off it a little bit, and that would make for some pretty cool pictures and a pretty cool adventure. So yeah, we'll see if we can pull that off.
Even in the short time we spent in this cave, I did manage to fire off a few pretty decent shots as Will exited and made his way to the mouth of the cave. I mean, you just have to love all the different angles, textures and colours formed by the ancient ice. Navigating further around the glacier was made easier by the fact that Will had actually previously visited this glacier when it was drier, so we did have a little bit of context for a safer passage.
So what we ended up doing is coming around the back of kind of where we were earlier near those ice caves. And I've rigged up a little bit of a rope down here. You might be able to just about see Will down there. Not sure if you can see him in that shot. But we found some ice, put a couple of ice screws in, rigged up a rope just to kind of rappel down this, what's really just a slightly steeper slope. So it's nothing super drastic and super scary. You can kind of still walk down on your own 2 feet, but the rope's a good little safety backup. And just on the edge here, where Will is down there, where he's positioned, you will be able to, from the other side, get a picture kind of shooting up. And I think it's going to look quite like we're kind of, on a big ice climb or on a big crevasse sort of a thing, but it's a bit of a cheat. So the pictures are going to make it look more dangerous than it is. But good little way to explore, but it has meant obviously crampons on, harnesses on and all that stuff just to be nice and safe, and we can climb back out nice and easily. And I've left enough line at the top here as well so that if for some reason Will needed a rescue, I've got enough rope here where I can send down the belly of the rope and actually just pull him out, or do a haul, like a pitch haul on his rope and pull him back out without him doing anything at all. But from where he is, he can essentially walk out. But I think this is going to be the shot. Renault's down there at the moment. He's going to pop into the kind of ice arch area and get a shot on the way back up there, and then maybe we'll do a little switcheroo and get a couple shots like that. I think this could be the shot of the day.
And before long, it was my turn to get down in the hole.
So I thought I'd show you, this is what it looks like from down here. That's our anchor up at the top there. But yeah, as you can see, below me here is a bit of an ice hole, bit of a gap here. But the guys can kind of come around under here, and I'm really just stood on the edge of this slope here, kind of roped up and anchored on. But I think if I get kind of just close to the edge, that shot's going to look really cool. The wide angle lens shooting back up here, back towards the sky, going to look pretty epic. But pretty cool views from here too. Definitely become the model here, hanging on this little ice cliff. tied myself off here to this, and then we've got Will just down here in the cave down there. He's taking a few pictures. Kind of in this part of the cave, looked quite solid, nice solid arch on there. So just grabbing a few snaps as I'm kind of tied off here and posing. Just decided to give my camera to Will, and he's shooting a few pictures for me. That's kind of cool because one, there'll be pictures of me, which is pretty cool. And also means we don't have to swap out too many times. I've probably got the most experience when it comes to kind of rope work and climbing and this kind of stuff through work. So I think it probably makes sense that I'm the one kind of being the model whilst the guys down there are shooting. But yeah, can't wait to see how these turn out. I'll do a few edits when I get home. And then if they turn out any good, I'll show them to you now.
So in the next clip, I'm going to make a joke about blaming Will if these pictures don't turn out, as it was his finger on the trigger. However, you can completely ignore that because, as you can see, these are pretty epic. And even this panoramic stitch couldn't have come out much better either. It needed a little distortion correction, but the timing couldn't have been any better. With myself on ropes in the upper left and Renault at the other entrance to the cave, this has to be one of my favourite images of the day.
So hopefully some of those pictures came out pretty good. And I suppose if they didn't, I'll just blame Will. But no, in all seriousness, that's probably one of the most dangerous little photo shoots that I've done. But I think we did it in the safest way possible. And obviously I would not recommend coming out to these glaciers and trying this sort of stuff. If you haven't got some kind of experience in it in the first place, don't just do it for the picture. And that's not what I'm trying to encourage by any means. I'm just trying to show you beautiful places in the mountains. And as always, obviously, people's risk tolerances are always different. And if you want to get out and do risky stuff, that's completely down to you, as long as you know what risks you're taking. The danger really comes when people head out into the mountains not knowing the situations they're getting themselves into, or not knowing what risks they are taking or what risks they're at danger of. So at the end of the day, do your research, learn a little bit, do what you're comfortable with, and do whatever your risk tolerance allows you to do. And now we've got a bit of a hike back down to the car. You might just about be able to see the road in the distant valley over there. It's a few Ks. We want to get out before the sun comes down, so we've got about an hour and a half. But once again, thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.